Okay, I don't know much about this yet, but here's as much as I could learn so far. It was a 6.8 magnitude. It happened 11 p.m. apparently last night, and it was a relatively shallow depth, 18.5 kilometers, which is 11.5 miles deep, was where, you know, I don't know how they measure the depth, whether they think that's the shear zone or whatnot, but they claim 18.5 miles or 18.5 kilometers, 11.5 miles deep. Now, the epicenter was in the high Atlas Mountains, about 72 kilometers, which is 45-ish miles southwest of Marrakesh, a city of 840,000 people and a popular tourist destination. So 45 miles away, and it affected Marrakesh. Now, I don't know how much it affected downtown Marrakesh, whether that's where all of the damage was. I'm really not certain. So there's a lot to learn about the details of what happened, but I did go to this area, which I thought was about where they're talking, southwest of Marrakesh in the high Atlas Mountains. Now let's take a look at what I did find there. Okay, it's shocking, but it's true. This is biology. Now, I went 45 miles southwest, which is somewhere in this area. It might be over here. They say the high mountains. Now, that's going to be up in this area. But over here, because this is all biology, 100% biology. So I saw over here where I looked for the red flesh. And here it is right here. And then I went back and I looked at what is on top of that red flesh, which is the skin. This is literally skin. All right, and I'm going to explain it to you. I show it, and this is the eroded skin eroding off. These balls right here, this is just exactly like what I'll show you in my microscope, is flesh, which is hide, it's leather. And then it started to erode, the whole thing collapsed over here. And this is the first layer of flesh. That's the gooey flesh that's in the surface of your body. And that right there is the interstitium. All right, this is just brand new understood, this biology, because I see it in these gigantic creatures. And what is interstitium? First of all, you have your flesh, I mean your skin out here, which in this case is leather. And then it erodes down here, down to this layer, which is the interstitial highway. That's the fluid-filled highway. I'll show it to you in a second, biology. Just below that, you have this layer right here, which is about right down to here. This layer here houses all of your bacteria. Now, I'm going to show you this, and then, of course, it all erodes down further. Now, what's the height right here? The height is 4,475 feet. Well, down here, it's 4,285 feet. So it's a couple of hundred feet drop. That's the thickness of the skin, of the you know, fleshy, the little fleshy stuff between this layer and the top. And I'm going to show you it in a second. Don't forget, just below that fluid-filled highway is the interstitium layer, and below that is your fleshy stuff, and then it turns into the red flesh. Let's look at it. Okay, this is the terrain over at Marrakesh, and this is the interstitium, this fluid-filled highway. They just found this in 2018, believe it or not. They never even knew it existed in the human body until then. And this is the membrane that I'm showing you. So it eroded down here a couple hundred feet, then we saw the membrane, then you saw another little gooey spot that was attached to the membrane. That's where the bacteria live. Then you get into a layer that's sort of, you know, elasticy, and then you get into your main flesh, and that's precisely what we saw in that area where the earthquake was in Marrakesh. Okay, so that's the surface right next to Marrakesh. This right down here is the Noto, and it's in the microscope, and here it is up here. Okay, these are all the little black bumps. I can come in closer and we can look at it a little better. You see, it's basically the same thing as because it's nothing more than leather. I can turn the lights down. You can see it. You see it, basically the same thing as what you have here. Now, what else about this? There's a white strip here. All right, look it down here. You see that white strip running across here? That white strip is the same as the one that's in Marrakesh, where this is. There's a white strip runs right down the center. Now let's go see if we can find it. But don't forget, that's what it looks like in the microscope. All right, let me tune it in a little closer. You see, they got all the black and a little reddish here, and the white is where the blood runs. Okay, this is the city of Marrakesh right down here. I just called this Marrakesh because I want you to see what's going on over here. This is all biology. Now we're going to come right down on here. Now, as I come down, I want you to start looking. You see this red seam coming around here and all this white and then the black on the top. Let's look at the black on the top because I'm going to tell you right now, that is skin. That is skin, and it's leathery skin. You see these black balls all over this? Those balls are exactly like what is in the no-toe right here. Okay, you see the no-toe right there? All right, that's actually like a human-ish foot. All right, and this has the same leather as it does as what I'm showing you in Morocco. I'm telling you, the creatures, it's just, I don't know how anybody can get their mind around it, but I finally did. Now, that's the tibia that comes down, the big bone sits there. And then the fibula comes down, sits on the side, and that's only held on by a couple of little ligaments, so it falls off. But this is the texture of leather. And it's exactly the same as the texture that you see right there. Now, there will also be a seam of blood here and there, which in the foot is right there. That's where your toes are. When you look at a blood supply of toes, it's extremely dense right in that exact area. That's exactly where it is. And this was some kind of, just before humans, it looks like, because the springs were in the feet. And even Yale said these things solidified in a very rapid manner to be due to this particular saltwater flood, which is the Great Flood. And it wiped off all this crazy stuff off the earth. Because this is crazy, and there's other stuff that's much crazier. And they said nothing like it resembled anymore. And that was a paper by Yale after I presented them with all my work, and they agreed. Now, this is the leather. Now, that is the leather as well. Now, what's underneath leather? Well, leather is skin, basically. It's the hide, cow hide. Let's see what's under it. All right, now pay attention to this. This whole area would have been this stuff here. It's eroded. This is erosion. There's a layer of tissue right underneath this tough layer, which is the leathery layer of skin. So we have the same sort of thing. And then you have a floppy layer underneath, and then you get down into the red flesh. So here's your skin, which is, this is all that's left, is this spot here. It's been eroded here, eroded all over. And that's why that red stuff is there. That's the flesh way down there. Now, so let's go in and look at it close again. And remember I said you're going to have all of these white spots here. Can you see there? Yes. All right. You see, this is the white spots that run around to deliver blood. That's where the blood gets delivered, through this matrix of leather. And this is nothing more than leather. I think I showed you. I hope I did. But this is nothing more than this white stuff going here where it delivers the blood. Now, what happens at the edge where it starts to erode off and turn red and so forth? So we're still on top of the guy's leather. This is nothing more than leather. And then we get over here towards the edge. And it starts to break and fold in. And what happens? You get into these layers right here, which are the layers of tissue. So here's your skin. Now that is at a level of 4,530, 4,530 feet. You come down here, you're at 4,283 feet. So you got like 250 feet of this little fleshy stuff dropping down. And then it continues down through the next layer of tissue, which is the interstitial highway. This has just been discovered. You see this? Nobody made this. Nobody drew that in there. Nobody carved that out of there. This particular layer right here and down into, I don't know exactly where, but a certain distance down, this, well actually, this is the interstitial highway. And probably it's only right down to about here. And all of this is enzymes and so forth, which are very reactive. That's why you see these different colors. I would say this is the interstitium, fluid-filled highway, and this is the extent of the interstitium, and then down into here, you're into basically starting to go into your red fleshy stuff. Well, maybe not. The red fleshy stuff is way down here. I mean, this is a gigantic creature. But this is where you have the flesh really is flesh. And that's where you can grow a lot of stuff. You see they're growing all their crops in here. Wherever there's red blood, you can grow crops like crazy. And I believe these are crops. They might just be plants that are growing here, but I think they're probably their crops. Well, obviously they are. So what you got, again, is skin at the top, which is leather, basically. Below that, you got 250 feet of floppy stuff just below the skin. In us, it's just, you know, you can measure with a micrometer. And then you hit that layer, which is this fluid-filled highway. And then this is where the interstitium stops, and all this is run off of these enzymes. Enzymes are very caustic chemicals, and that's where they're housed, right in this layer. This is stunning. I can't believe I found this. Okay, I'm pretty sure I showed you. Well, I know I must have, but I got interrupted a couple times. Now, this again is the skin. That's these balls are what you see in the leather. All right, and I showed you. I know I showed you the no-toe that I have here. It's the same kind of leather, and even my belt is the same thing. I think I might have showed you that too. Now, in here is where we're seeing the actual interstitium. From here to here, this is thickness. From the skin, it's eroded down. This is what they call a fluid-filled highway. Nobody carved it. It's there because this is where enzymes travel throughout your body to protect you, or that creature, whatever it was. And then there's another layer right below that. You see down to here, it's maybe a little hard to see, but you can see there's all kinds of layers in here. All right, and these are pretty steep, so nobody's cutting these. These are all by themselves. But there's a layer that goes from here right down to about here. And that's where all of the interstitium is. And this is where the immune system lives. And then they spray their stuff out into the fluid-filled highway to travel around to all of the other tissues and support all the other tissues. Now, they may have used some of these as trails because they're already cut into here. So now here we are. There's the top. It's eroding down. How deep is this skin? All right, I'm saying this is the fluid-filled highway. This elevation right here is 4480. All right, the elevation here is 4280. All right, 4280, and up here is 4480. 200 feet. It's basically almost straight up. And then it goes from here down and erodes down into the red flesh. This stuff here is just below the interstitium layer. And you got connective tissues and so forth, because you got to move around and you got all this gooey stuff going on. I don't know what kind of a body part it was, but the bottom line is you finally get down into the red flesh. All right, and here's the red fleshes all around. All of that has eroded and run out and run down and run all down here and run all down here and out. And be carried out into here. All over this whole area has eroded away. And this is just outside of Marrakesh. Marrakesh is over here. And it's, and again, that's right on top of Typhon. I don't know if I showed you this or not. Typhon is, boy, I always have a hard time with this stuff. There it goes. Here's Typhon all the way from here, all the way across North Africa. So there's going to be some kind of biology going on in here. Something decayed, a little organ or organelle or something up in here, or a shoulder, I don't know what. But they got a good sized earthquake, 6.8. So that's all I can tell you about that. But I can tell you one thing for sure. The whole entire Earth that I can tell, and anything coming through space, also is biology. And even iron meteorites are biological. And there's blood inside that you can see. And probably even DNA tests. I don't know. It's probably been cooked so hot that nothing there is going to make any sense anymore. Because once you heat up biological stuff, it is what it does is it denatures, it kills it, it destroys it. That's why, you know, it kills all the bacteria and stuff so you can eat it. Heat is the destroyer of biology. All right, so meteorites, I don't know if you're going to get any DNA out of them, but I can prove, I have one here, I have two here actually, that have blood in them, no question about that. Whether you get any DNA on it, I have no idea. Alright, I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly what happened to Turkey. This is the surface up here. This is a rock cut like this, and it was muscle tissue. It's still got the red sarcomeres in here, and this is where the blood runs through muscles, because you need a ton of blood. Muscles need a lot of blood. Now the blood has just turned to clay, or you know, right in between here. And the same thing would happen to the side of a mountain if it was muscle, and it was, and that's what happened in Turkey. It was face down this way. The red blood just ran out of there and left big caverns under here. And then one day it just collapsed, and that's where they had a terrible, terrible earthquake. So don't forget, that's what sarcomeres look like. And if the blood ran out, you'd have cavities, and they break right on these lines because they're very weak on those lines. Once they're dried out, the glue doesn't hold up like when they're alive. All right, this is the olive grove. This is in Turkey. Once again, these are those sarcomeres. These are red spots. You see the way they shatter right down here? They break right along those lines. There's no strength to them. What happened was way down deep in underneath here somewhere, the blood ran out. All right, somewhere down here there was blood, like that layer of blood. There's a layer here. There's some over here. I mean, it has to have blood. And it has to have a lot of it. So underneath, somewhere down below, way down in here somewhere, and I did find it with one picture pretty good, but the red blood ran out from underneath, and then now just everything collapsed. And I believe this whole area was part of that deal, because it's gone now. What happened to it? Where did it go? This is the whole top here is down here now. So this here, what you're looking at basically is down there. See the trees and stuff are down here. So that's the surface has come down here. That had to be a void. There's no other possibility. It had to be a huge, gigantic void under there. And that's exactly what I just showed you in that stone. There's no way you can miss this. They're the same. And when the blood is very fluidy, and water and so forth running downhill will evacuate it. And once it's gone, those cavities come down. Now, I don't know if that's the case over in Marrakesh or not, but I could see there was a lot of erosion in that area, as you saw. A lot of erosion. Now, is that the case? Is that the cause of it? I don't know. But we did see this this area right here. That's all from here down is erosion. So if you said to the top here, see, this is just all eroded, see it? It's washing all down here. If you're at the top, we're at 4,500 feet. 4,500 feet at the top of the guy's flesh. Down here, whatever the bottom is, we're at 3,400 feet. Okay, 3,400 to 4,500. So it's 1,000 feet or more thickness between the skin, and it's literally skin, down to whatever this is. Like I say, I don't know what, but I do know this is eroded biology. Now, I know this is hard for anybody to accept, and showing what I show is not well received most times, so you take it for what it's worth to you. But I'm going to tell you something right now. This is a lot of biology going on here. Whenever you see these colors, that's biology. And whenever you see these little snaky looking things, they're not snakes normally. They might be, but they're water passageways that originally were some kind of bodily fluids. And that's why they're all wrinkled up like that, because that way they can stretch and come back. Okay, and that's not where Marrakesh is. Marrakesh is up over this way, about 45 miles. I put that little tag there, but this red washout here is to me either the bottom of the guts or something, but it's really quite striking as you go down the whole thing. You see, and over here, same thing. This is quite a lot of erosion here from way up here at the top down. All of these eroded. This is all biology. You see that? That's eroded biology. All of that. Now, is that the intestine? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I can tell you one thing. That's eroded biology. And if you go from here, which is 5,120 feet, to the bottom down here is 3,700 feet. So 51, 37, that's like 1,400 feet drop from up here to down here. And they live in the red stuff. Everybody likes the red stuff because stuff grows where there's red. Red is blood. And it goes all the way down here. You see it all the way down, all the way down, all the way around. Very strange and vibrant looking. Look how vibrant looking that is. And there's some kind of a pattern to that. Again, I'm a scientist. I show material evidence. It's shocking, yes. But the ancient texts talk about this. Now you can live with your head in the sand and just be perfectly happy, deluded, which people seem to be very happy with that. I'm not. I want to see what the reality is here. Now, is it going to help anybody? I don't know. Is it going to hurt anybody? Probably. Once you see this, you're sort of committed to reality or not. And then if you're committed to the reality and you go with it, it's going to affect your life. I can guarantee you. People will not be happy about your choice. Now, if you don't go with it, you won't be happy about your choice. I'd rather they don't be happy about my choice. I don't want to be unhappy saying, oh yeah, you're right, I'm just a nutcase. No, I'm not the nutcase. I follow the evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. So again, I'm very, very sorry for all the pain and suffering that's going on right now. And hopefully the international community will come to help. And I'm sure that it appears that people do rally around to help each other. And that's the only thing I see anymore that I'm really excited about, to see when people do stand up to help. And I'm sure that's what will happen here. But this is not going to be the end of this stuff. The more things we take out of the ground. Now, I don't know if they're doing any oil and stuff over here, but I know in Russia they're sucking the place dry and everything's caving in because they're taking these fluids out of a creature's body. Those are body fluids. Oils and gases are body fluids. They come in all different grades, and they fester up. And they're taking all that pressure out right now, and the whole Earth's surface is basically not being supported by those gases and those oils and those pressures and those gas molecules, expansion gases inside the Earth. Now they're outside the Earth. Anyway, that's it. Okay, I looked up the oil areas in Morocco, and here's Marrakesh. These are what they call oil shale basins. And what that means is that the oil lays on a layer down in a shale area, and then they can drill down, and they drill sideways to go way out into these fields to collect up this oil. But it's basically, there's a strata that separates the oil from the rest, and basically that is the bottom layer of the creature. I'm telling you, oil comes from bodily fluids from creatures. I'm going to show you something in Alaska. I told you before, I was in Alaska just shortly after the 1964 earthquake there, 9.2. And that's all from body cavities too. I'm going to show you that right now. And the crazy thing is, Mount Spur is where that body cavity is. That's my last name, Spur. Now, I showed you Typhon in a desert. I don't know what this one is. I call him Scorpzilla because he's got a scorpion tip on the end, but it runs all the way from here all the way up the west coast, and there's a scorpion tip. But this right here is the digestive system, right at the butt. And there's the butt is called Mount Spur. I'm not kidding you. There's Anchorage, and Mount Spur is right over here. All right, let me tip it up. Don't forget, Anchorage is over here. Hold on. All right, anytime you see these different colored lakes, you see these different colors right next to each other, dark blue, light blue, different colors. This is the digestive system. This is where Anchorage is. This is where the 9.2 earthquake was. This whole area up here, this whole area in here is all digestive system, and it collapsed that particular day. Now, Mount Spur is literally the rectum. They always used to call me a rectum. Of course, they didn't use that name, that particular word. But Mount Spur is right there. And that's the poop coming out of Mountain Spur. I'm not kidding you. I swear. And I can show you. It's undeniable, really. So Mount Spur poops right out of here. Let me get you where Mount Spur is. Hold on. All right, I'm just going to teach you about biology that is geology now. You see these little squiggly lines here? They're important to understand, and I will fill you in on them. You see these different colored lakes? Why is this all these different colors in the lakes? Why? Why different colors so close to each other? I can tell you why, because this whole area here is a digestive system. You see these colored lakes? What's that all about? Those are different enzymes that create different bacteria because they break down different types of bodily things that you eat. This whole area here, all the way right to here, is the digestive system. This is Anchorage over here. And this, they had a 9.2 earthquake. My mountain is here, Mount Spur, and that is literally the anus. I am the rectum of Alaska. Out of Mount Spur comes this stuff here. And there it is right there. And it's literally poop. You see this brown stuff? I mean, it is. And this side right here is where the fluid stuff comes out. So this is the poop side. And they had a huge eruption from this volcano, Mount Spur. And it really took off in 1992. And this is the stuff that comes out, just like it comes out of you. Now this side here is the fluid side, and you see these two little bumps here? That's literally the pincher that pinches it off so that it just doesn't flow out of there all the time. I'm not kidding you. This right here, you see this? This is some kind of a discharge, and it has a little flap that it can go this way. I believe, well, I don't think it's going that way. I think it's going this way when it was alive. All right, so some of these digestive juices or whatever would go into here, or maybe it was absorbing vitamins, because that's what happens in your colon. You absorb vitamins out of your colon. Very important, your colon. You don't think about it that much. But that's where the pinch would be to shut the thing off. And this here, I don't know what this specific material is, but that's what this does. You can see it's like got a little springy action going on here. Shoop, shoop. All right, and all up in here is where your guts are, or where his guts were. And then after the two meet together, they discharge down into here, into Cook Inlet. All right, now I have to assume, and I don't know if I'm right or not, that this thing here hasn't been pooping that long. It's come down to here. Will it come down further and further? I don't know. Is that just where it? I don't know. These are the things I do not know. But it's only come down to here in a good, well-formed poop. The rest stuff is like just sort of runoff. But anyway, this is to me, this is very interesting. And when I say this is a digestive system, what is it a digestive system for? What the heck is this thing? I call him Scorbzilla. And here he is right here. And he's big. Very, very big. Now, he covers all the entire west coast, but we have one that covers the entire east coast, which is Quetzalcoatl. Now this one here, I never heard of him, but he's Scorbzilla. This is, I believe, the head. This area right here would be the eye. That's the pupil. And then I think this, if you've tested the soils and so forth here, I'll bet you this is going to be salty, because that's the corner of his eye. And then there is Crowley Lake is down here, has the beard, and they're huge, huge. They look like tree trunks coming out of here. They all have beards. So that's his head. All right, he runs up here. There's his shoulders. And all that high mountain stuff here, where it's wet or snowy, is way up high in the mountains. That's because his body's up in the air here. Now, it comes all the way up the west coast. And then Mount Spur is where the anus is. Now, what happens there? It still has a tail. Where's the tail? The tail runs all the way back here, all the way to the end. And right here is the Scorbzilla. Well, that's why I call him Scorbzilla. There's a scorpion pincher right there. It comes right out of his tail here. And that's the tip. And when he died, he ended up squirting out the venom. And there's the venom right there. You see it? It came out of here and just dribbled over to here. All right, now, how would that scorpion, how would that work? You see this right here? You see these wrinkles? This scorpion jabber would twist back this way on this pin. It's on a pin right here. All right, so that thing would twist right into this packet. That's what all this wrinkly stuff is. Why would that be there? There's none here. There's none over here. It's only there where it wrinkles back in. And then if you got in between here and this jabber, you're done. So I call him Scorbzilla. He runs all the way up the west coast, because this is California. And Tyson works up in this area. You know, he's got different ideas about this. Tyson's Mudfossil Adventures, but you know, I see it as Scorbzilla now. And then Quetzalcoatl is over here on the east coast. He runs the entire east coast. Here's Quetzalcoatl. All right, there he is. There's his head. All of this different color is the color because it's the dragon scales. Around here is blood, and it's nice and green growing because the blood is running off. These is the feathers that run up out of his head. And I mean feathers, yes, feathers. Can I prove that? Yes, I think I can. If I come down here close enough, let's see if we can find a feather. These are all feathers, but there's one or two in here that are pretty easy to see. Well, let's look at this one here. All right, there it is right there. You see that? It's identical. That's the stalk in the middle, you see? Just like that one here. You see the little things going on? You see the things going on here? That's the feather, and that's the thing in the middle. That's it. And then there's one right next to it over here. And they're all over his head because that was his headdress. I'll show you what he looked like. Now remember I showed you that squiggly looking stuff? Look at this. Look at his throat, and this is where he spit out the venom into the Gulf, and it's a dead zone out there. See it? Spit right out into here, into the Gulf, right here. This is a complete dead zone, hypoxia. Nothing lives there. Completely saturated with some kind of salty nastiness. And that came out of his mouth right there. These are his beards. They had beards. There's one there and one there. You got Google Earth. You can come up and look at this. This is his throat. It runs all the way down, all the way down, all the way up the East Coast. Now, this squiggly looking stuff, you see it? I had a hard time trying to understand this at first. But I think it's because you can twist and move all around. So it has to be able to do this sort of stuff. Anywhere you have a lot of flexibility. And look at this, look at on the edge of his nose. Look at this stuff. And it's got to have something to do with the flexibility of the skin on these dragons, because they all have the same stuff. Look at this. I had no idea what to think when I first found this. But anyway, he runs up the whole East Coast, all the way up. There's his body. Follow my cursor. Up, all the way up the East Coast. And there is the feathers that are up on the East Coast. They call them the Green Mountains. Now, you can buy feather meal, it's called. Let this thing sink in, and you'll see it in a second. Feather meal is something you can put on your plants to make them grow green. It's a tremendous amount of nitrogen very fast. And these are just more feathers. It's just more feathers coming up this way. And in between, where it runs off, you got some nice growing stuff. That's why you got some good growing area up in here. Now, this also had a digestive system. And it appears that Washington, D.C. is where the where the digestion happens. I'm sorry, that's just a fact. I don't know what else to say. There's a lot of it going on in there, I can tell you that. Now, as I said, you drill oil, and oil is produced by bodily fluids, and they collect in certain areas: hearts, lungs, liver, wherever there's a lot of blood, wherever there's a lot of bodily fluids collect in that area. And as they begin to decay, they create pressure. And that pressure holds the earth up. Well, we've sucked all that pressure out of the earth. Russia's drilling like crazy. Everybody in the world's drilling like crazy. These new guys, they're talking about, we're going to drill and frack and destroy the whole earth so we can get a little more oil. In the meantime, I believe there's a solution right now to get free energy. And it's very, very simple, and it could be harvested very, very quickly if it's true. And it all has to be tested, and it can be tested very, very quickly, very easy, and very cheap to find out one way or the other what it would work. I've been showing it for years now. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're in trouble. They're drilling in here too, pulling all kinds of oil out for everywhere. They want to drill everywhere they can drill. And I'm telling you, it didn't work for Russia. I'm going to tell you right now, their whole area up there is just totally collapsing. And so is it all around the world. And I think it may have something to do with what had just happened in Morocco. There's an oil basin in there. I don't know how much oil they're taking out of there. I'm not going to get involved in any of that stuff. But I'm just telling you right now, as these cavities empty, they're going to collapse. Exactly what happened in Russia. And I talked to the Russians, I actually talked to them in 2015 when this all started. And the tundra is just collapsing up there because there's nothing holding it. There's no pressure. There's no pressure underneath. They used to drill a hole and hit oil, and they call it gusher. It would shoot out of there like hundreds and hundreds of feet in the air, oil. And they had to try to cap it off. It was so much pressure. And that's what it should be, because it's biodegrading underground, and it's keeping the pressure of the earth up. That's not happening anymore. It's just sinking. And that's why we're having a lot of earthquakes. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up by just saying the ancient texts talked about these exact events and these exact monsters, and that they were wiped off the face of the earth. And Velikovsky's research shows that it was only 3,500 years ago that this global disaster occurred. And to my way of thinking, they're all on the surface of the earth, and these are gigantic creatures, and 3,500 years ago makes sense to me. Now, don't forget, here we are up in the area. This is, of course, the dragon in Morocco. And this thing here, this has a cloaca, too. And, of course, it's where you find all the cloacas. It's in the butt area, and here it is right there. And people are living right here because it's very fertile. Let it sink in for a second. This has the discharge of the poop here, and it says the discharge of the fluids here. All right, so there's where they're living, and they're very fertile. And this side where poop comes out, and this side is where the urine comes out. And then they mix together down here, just like up in Mount Spur. And they come out in one stream. And that is, like I say, the cloaca. That's right there, the butt of Scorpzilla. I mean, of Typhon. And Typhon, read up Typhon. Read Apollodorus. All right, Apollodorus 1.6.3. Why read 1.6.2 talks about where they had they fought the giants, and they overcame the giants, and then Zeus had to deal with Typhon, and that's when he had to cut his throat in the desert, or wherever. That's a little confusing to where exactly it happened, but I can tell you what, it happened, and here it is here, and these are on ancient maps. They show the dragon, and they show his throat cut. And they actually have the ancient Greek coins show the dragon attacking the fish, or some monster at least. A whole kind of different monsters, but always attacking a fish. I imagine by the time they started making the coins was about 800 years after this event. They didn't know what kind of a creature it was. All they could go by was they said it was a hybrid, and it was a giant, and it had scorpion coils and all kinds of things. And it has all the things they talked about. And it is attacking a fish. Now that's Quetzalcoatl. He's the one on the East Coast. It's virtually identical. And he has the same little beard coming out of him. They used to eat the giants, apparently. Now, this thing was pretty big, so he was eating some pretty big stuff. That's all I can tell you. I know it sounds insane. I'm not saying it isn't. Now, the only way we're going to save the Earth is to get free energy. How are we going to do it? We have to possibly get the separation of the white from the black. That increases the energy, which is called electron showers. And that increases the energy just a staggering amount to be able to divide those two. They came in together as a Dirac neutrino, the black and the white. You see it, black and white, black and white. Two back to back make a photon. And that's a photon of light. All right, we accelerated that by using a Venturi. And a Venturi does the same thing as the head-on particle colliders, only we do it sideways. They have to go through that Venturi together, and the black forces them through. So they squirt through here. And at the same time, the black separates from the white. That's all we want, is white to charge batteries. This should be at least we would know in a couple of weeks whether this would work. Not even a couple of weeks, 1 week. You'd be certain whether this would work or not. And all it is focusing a laser through a Venturi, and what comes out the other side, we want to harvest as raw, complete raw energy. We don't have to do anything to convert it into energy. Right now, you generators and all this stuff, that's a ton of work to get the electricity. So what you're using is what you're creating, that's all. It's a very difficult thing now. That's why they want to use wind turbines and all the different methods to drive all this stuff. Well, if we let the black particles do our driving for us, and now they are, bam, 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 bam. That's what they're doing, slapping. This is pulsed. The black squirts the white through. If that's the case, and it is, I can tell you right now, that's the electron and neutrino, electron and muon neutrino together. When they hit here, they're together, they're stuck together. Now they fission. creating electron showers. And when I show you what electron showers create, as far as energy goes, they knock your socks off. The muons get the hell out of the way. We don't want them. Those are just weight. We want the raw, no weight electrons, and there they are right there. And here's what it shows as they come in, the photons right there. And then when they hit the Venturi, right here, they divide. All right, so what is an electron shower? Well, here's what an electron shower will do. Protons, they want to use all kinds of major equipment to do this. You don't need any of that stuff. Then they want to decay it into hadrons and flux neutrinos and this and that. We started out with electron and muon neutrinos attached together. It was just photons. That's all it is photons. So we started here. And then we broke them apart, creating up to trillions of electron volts. And you can see it's an absolutely enormous increase in energy at the Venturi. Absolutely stunning amount of energy. This is a nuclear blast, a subatomic nuclear explosion. It's really literally what it is. It's fission here and fusion here. We should be able to harvest it right there. If we can, we're golden. I mean, absolutely golden. There's no risk of any major injury or anything. This is just light. You could get overheated here, but who knows? We have to test it out. These are the things we do, a little engineering. And then we need to be able to have good receivers, which is transition metals, perovskites. There's some new stuff they're doing, which receives all the frequencies of light. Well, as many as you can get. And then, because this is just going to be nothing but raw energy. Now, some of them are going to be faster, some of them are going to be slower. Depends on the laser. Because red is slow, green and faster, blue is real fast. You want to be way up into the blue range, because that's really voltage. Blue is, voltage means this. Here's low voltage is this. Middle voltage, which is the green, that was a red. The green is moving along, and the blue is voltage is pressure. The first one goes boing, boing. The blue goes and the blue goes get the hell out of the way and right straight through. That's high voltage. So we got a little engineering to do, but I'm talking literally days, weeks, a month tops. We should be able to be using these. If it works, I'm not kidding you. And they will be free energy and not harmful to the environment. One last little bit. This is all it is. The laser shoots through the Venturi. The Venturi sprays onto a solar collector. Basically, you pump it down into batteries or a motor or whatever you want. It's electron flood theory. That's my electron flood theory. This is what I would propose is a little handheld device like this. We have all kinds of plugs at different voltages and frequencies and AC, DC, anything you want come out of here and just carry it around. And they know this works. You see this? Low energy showers. These are electron showers. See electron showers? High energy showers way up here. Precisely what I've just been showing you. The muons, you see the muons? They just back out of there. It's too big. They can't get through. So they know this will work from low energy up to high energy. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's what it looks to me like they understand that. So what are we looking at here? Low energy up to high energy. And we want to collect it right there. All right. Again, I'm showing this a million times, but I have shown it a million times, and I haven't found any interest. So I'm hoping, and I've been contacting a lot of people, and I'm getting very few responses. So if you know anybody that's a physicist or wants to help the Earth, I'm telling you, for a few $1,000s, half a dozen engineers together, it's a couple of milling machines to create the Venturis, different style Venturis and so forth. We need somebody that understands solar collection with solar panels and perovskites and, CMOS and so forth. We need a little engineering for the circuitry. We need a photodiode and some kind of a bus arrangement which the electrons can flow down, and then some circuit regulation. It's almost all of this stuff is already done already. The only thing that's not done is the Venturi. The lasers are ready, right off the shelf. There's all kinds of solar collectors available, but they're not going to be real energy efficient, but at least they do something. Once we separate this, the increase in energy is literally should be at least a couple of hundred times more energetic here than it was here. At least 200 times. Right? Now, if you just take 10% of that and run it back here, you got just scads of extra electricity, and it's just 24/7. You don't have to ever turn that off. Right now, when they do their pulses and these things, they go pulse, and then they wait a week, they do another pulse, and they think that's a big deal. This runs all day long, and it's focusable into here. And I have another guy, Rocco, he's looking into doing it head on, so that we collect in the middle and double the voltage, because the speed of how this comes through here and smashes, I believe, is the voltage. Although you could step it up. There's ways to step up voltages. Now, if you hit head on, you got that instead of, you got boom instead of bam. All right, this is coming from one laser. This is coming from two lasers. It should give you more juice. So instead of having a 12-volt battery, you could have a 50-volt battery. I hope that makes sense to you. Voltage is pressure. Quantity, the number of particles, is amperage. All right, so you just have to have more lasers, but you still need to get that voltage. You got to get enough voltage to do some work. And I know there's going to be enough voltage using the blue. It's very high. And you could use ultraviolet too. Just prior to the ultraviolet catastrophe where you lose your electrons, you could collect those electrons. I know this can be done, and there is no other way to save the Earth, and I don't think it can work now anyway, but at least somebody have electricity.